Early February 1941, Berlin, Tirpitzufer. Grey corridors smell of coal and damp paper as clerks pass carbon copies warm from the roller. A duty officer bends over a freshly decrypted signal from the North Atlantic. A U-boat group plotted west of Iceland, bearings clean, grid square exact. By late afternoon, traffic from the same square reports depth charges pounding the sea and British destroyers arriving on the minute. On the wall map, red pins for the pack and blue flags for the escorts move toward each other, and impossibly, the British are first. They test the obvious first. A spy, none named. Procedure failure? The cipher office insists every form was correct. Indicator group sent, Kenngrupper logged. Keys changed at 0000 hours Berlin time. The naval Enigma, 3 rotors with 26-letter wiring and a plugboard swapping up to 10 pairs, should bury every word beneath combinations beyond human reach. Even before message settings, rotor choice and order yield dozens of possibilities. Add daily Grundstellung, ring positions and plugs, and the count soars into the trillions. Separate key nets for different forces add still another wall. Yet through the second week, the same pattern returns. Convoys sheer off before contact. Search aircraft orbit emptiness. Escorts appear where ambushes should bloom. In the war diary, the tone shifts from suspicion to dread, as if the Atlantic itself were whispering in English. To understand the unseen hand that seems to move those blue flags, we must cross to Bletchley Park, where mathematics begins to turn secrecy into leverage. Spring 1923, Berlin still hums with the fragile optimism of the Weimar years. In a small workshop lit by gas lamps and the rattle of street trams, an electrical engineer named Arthur Scherbius bends over a compact wooden box fitted with 3 metal rotors and a glowing lamp board. He calls it Enigma. Its purpose is simple yet revolutionary: to turn every message into an indecipherable maze of letters that only another identical machine can unlock. Each key pressed sends a jolt of current through shifting circuits, altering the substitution pattern every time, so that no letter ever encrypts to itself and no 2 messages ever follow the same path. With 3 rotors, a reflector and a keyboard of 26 letters, Scherbius's creation offers more than 150 quintillion possible configurations, numbers that feel infinite to the human mind of the 1920s. Scherbius dreams of selling his machine not to generals, but to bankers and businessmen seeking to guard their telegraphs and telexes. Early advertisements praise its precision, calling it a mechanical miracle of security. Yet sales are few. Only a handful of devices make their way into commercial offices and diplomatic desks. Still, the German military takes notice. In 1926, the Reichswehr begins experimenting with improved models, adding more robust casings and new wiring patterns. By the early 1930s, the Wehrmacht standardizes Enigma for all major branches: Army, Navy, and later Luftwaffe, each adopting unique rotor sets and plugboard wirings. To German officers, Enigma becomes not merely a tool but a symbol, an embodiment of German engineering perfection. Every morning, radio operators across occupied Europe and the Atlantic synchronize their machines, according to the day's secret key list, changing rotor positions and cable plugs at 600 hours sharp. The code evolves faster than any enemy can follow. The mathematics behind it appear unassailable. Even British cryptographers studying intercepted traffic dismissed decryption as hopeless. But far to the east, in Warsaw's Cipher Bureau, a small team of Polish mathematicians led by Marian Rejewski is already peeling back the layers of this mechanical labyrinth. Using algebra and logic rather than brute force, they begin charting the patterns others overlook. Their quiet discoveries will one day shatter the myth of Enigma's perfection. From this age of optimism and arrogance, the seeds of its downfall are already sown. December 1932, Warsaw, Poland. Snow drifts along the Vistula as the lights of the Polish Cipher Bureau burn late into the night. Inside, 3 young mathematicians, Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Rojicki, and Henryk Zygalski, sit among piles of intercepted German messages and sketches of wiring diagrams. They are not engineers or soldiers, but scholars of mathematics from Poznan University, recruited for their gift with patterns. Their task is to solve what others consider impossible: the German military's Enigma cipher. Rather than guess words or brute force settings, Rejewski approaches the machine as an algebraic construct. Each key press, he realizes, is a permutation, a substitution governed by precise mechanical logic. With equations and probability, he begins to reconstruct the hidden pathways of current through Enigma's rotors. By year's end, he has mapped their internal wiring and built the world's first working Enigma replica. Over the next 6 years, the Polish team refines their methods with astonishing ingenuity. Rejewski devises the clock method to determine rotor order from message indicators. Zygalski develops perforated Zygalski sheets, layered grids that help reveal daily keys by aligning holes under light. By 1938, as Germany expands its machine from 3 to 5 interchangeable rotors and adds more plugboard cables, the workload grows unmanageable. To accelerate their search, the Bureau builds the Bomber cryptologiczna, an electromechanical device capable of cycling through thousands of rotor positions automatically. 6 of these early bombs hum in the Warsaw basement, each one testing combinations at speeds no human could match. But time is closing in. The Germans continuously improve Enigma, shortening key cycles and expanding their cipher nets. The Poles, acutely aware that war is inevitable, choose to share their secret. In July 1939, in a secluded cabin in the Pyry Forest near Warsaw, they meet representatives of British and French intelligence. On the table lie 2 complete Enigma replicas, built in secret workshops. Rejewski explains the logic, the formulas and the methods that pierce the machine's heart. The Allies leave with blueprints, machines, and a head start of immeasurable value. 6 weeks later, on September 1st, Germany invades Poland. Warsaw falls beneath fire, and the Cipher Bureau scatters. Yet the knowledge they passed on endures, crossing borders and languages to reach Bletchley Park, where it will evolve into a weapon of intellect that shapes the war's hidden front. September 1939. Britain stands at the edge of a storm. As German troops cross into Poland, a sprawling Victorian mansion nestled amid the quiet fields of Buckinghamshire transforms overnight into the center of an unseen war. Bletchley Park, once the home of a wealthy financier, now buzzes with a strange new army. Mathematicians, linguists, engineers, chess masters, and crossword prodigies, summoned not by rifles or medals but by secrecy. Wooden huts sprout across the estate, filled with typewriters, radio intercepts, and the constant ticking of clocks. Within days, the Polish gift, the replica Enigmas and codebooks, arrives under armed guard, carrying the torch of a battle now to be fought with logic instead of guns. Among those who arrive is Alan Turing, a quiet Cambridge mathematician whose abstract theories will soon redefine modern computation. Alongside him, Gordon Welchman designs systems of workflow and traffic analysis. Dilly Knox, a veteran of World War I code-breaking, pores over fragments of cipher text with a scholar's obsession. They begin by reconstructing the Polish insights, wiring and rewiring Enigma replicas, testing assumptions, and building a new machine capable of tackling Enigma's ever-changing keys. This machine, the British bomb, grows from Turing's sketches, a cabinet filled with over 100 rotating drums, each mimicking the motion of an Enigma rotor. Powered by electric motors, the bombs can test hundreds of key combinations every second, reducing what once took months of hand calculation to mere hours. The women of the Women's Royal Naval Service, known affectionately as Wrens, operate these machines tirelessly, tending to cables, drums, and dials through the night. Their logbooks fill with streams of letters, fragments that soon become decoded orders, Luftwaffe flight plans, and U-boat patrol grids. By mid-1940, decrypted intelligence, codenamed Ultra, flows into the highest levels of Allied command. From these quiet halls come the first invisible victories, convoys rerouted before ambush, bombers sent to intercept at the precise hour, and lives saved by mathematics. In the hush of Bletchley's corridors, the war begins to turn, not by force but by thought. Spring 1941, grey seas roll beneath the bitter wind of the North Atlantic. Convoy HX-112 pushes westward from Liverpool, merchantmen heavy with supplies for Britain's survival. For months these voyages have been little more than suicide runs, stalked by unseen predators, the U-boats of Admiral Karl Donitz's wolf packs. Yet something has changed. As midnight approaches, British escorts move not in panic, but with eerie precision. Hours before contact, they alter course by 10 degrees, engines humming through the black swells. When the U-boats surface in the pre-dawn mist, depth charges already churn the water where they expected helpless prey. The ambushers have become the ambushed. The transformation is invisible, born not on the ocean, but in the quiet rooms of Bletchley Park. From the hum of the bombs comes a stream of decrypted signals, ultra-intelligence, laying bare the German Navy's coded transmissions. Each day's key yields positions, attack orders and rendezvous points for wolf packs forming north of Iceland or near the Bay of Biscay. The information is rushed to the Admiralty's Operational Intelligence Center, where analysts overlay the decoded data on convoy charts. Destroyers now steam directly toward U-boat patrol zones, sometimes arriving within hours of the enemy's own signal. What once seemed divine luck becomes deadly pattern recognition. At the Kriegsmarine headquarters in Berlin, Dönitz fumes. Reports flood in. Boats overdue, patrols lost, survivors describing uncanny British foresight. Convinced of treachery, he orders security sweeps, interrogations, and renewed scrutiny of every cipher clerk. But no leaks are found. Enigma, with its labyrinth of rotors and daily key changes, is mathematically unassailable, or so the experts insist. Dönitz reassures his commanders the machine is as safe as mathematics itself. By June, the truth is bleeding into the Atlantic tally sheets. U-boat losses triple, from 3 in March to 11 in June, and convoys once decimated now cross intact. Each message the Germans send, encrypted and confident, is already whispering to their enemy. Yet this balance is fragile. As the Kriegsmarine adds new rotors and enforces stricter radio discipline, the advantage begins to tremble. The silent war of intellect is far from over. February 1942, Bletchley Park falls silent. For 2 years, its machines have hummed like clockwork, delivering ultra-intercepts that guide convoys and confound the U-boats. Then overnight, the stream of German naval messages turns to gibberish. Operators stare at endless pages of nonsense text, their cribs and patterns useless. The Kriegsmarine has changed its cipher. The new variant, designated M4, adds a fourth rotor to the Enigma used aboard U-boats, transforming every message into a deeper labyrinth. What had been difficult now borders on impossible. The shark key, as the British call it, becomes a wall of silence stretching across the Atlantic. The effect at sea is immediate and brutal. Between February and May 1942, German submarines reap what Dönitz calls the second happy time. Convoys are torn apart along the American coast and in the mid-Atlantic gap where air cover cannot reach. 500 merchant ships vanish beneath the waves, their cargoes of fuel, food and munitions lost to the deep. In London's Admiralty War Room, the convoy charts bleed red. With ultra-blind, British commanders are forced to rely on guesswork and luck. Depth charges fall into empty water. Ships steam straight into ambushes. For the first time in years, the initiative belongs entirely to the enemy. At Bletchley, frustration hardens into resolve. Analysts pore over fragmentary intercepts, seeking any clue to the new wiring. The breakthrough, when it comes, is written in sacrifice. On October 30th, 1942, HMS Petard corners U-559 off Egypt. As the submarine sinks, Lieutenant Tony Fasson and able seaman Colin Grazier dive into the flooding hull, hauling out wet signal books and cipher materials before the sea closes over them. Both men drown, but their recovered codebooks, along with a captured M4 rotor, revive Bletchley's dead machines. Within weeks, Ultra once again reads the heartbeat of the U-boat fleet. The blackout has shown how thin the margin of supremacy truly is. A single rotor can erase a nation's foresight, and a single act of courage can restore it. With Enigma cracked anew, the tide of the Atlantic War begins to turn for good. Late 1943, within the shadowed offices of the Kriegsmarine headquarters in Berlin, unease begins to spread like a quiet infection. Reports from the Atlantic grow stranger with each passing month. Convoys that should have been ambushed never appear. Minefields laid in secret are somehow avoided. Allied destroyers materialize in the open ocean within hours of U-boat transmissions. Too fast, too precise, too consistent to be chance. From the Abwehr to naval intelligence, officers whisper that something in their encrypted network has gone wrong. Yet every test insists otherwise. The Enigma's mathematics, with its 150 quintillion combinations and strict daily key changes, remains unbreakable, or so the manuals claim Admiral Karl Dönitz, Methodical and disciplined, orders sweeping security audits across the fleet. Cipher clerks are retrained, key lists rewritten, rotor orders reprogrammed. Operators are warned against transmitting twice from the same position, and random test signals are introduced to confuse Allied trackers. In one controlled experiment, two identical messages are sent using slightly different Enigma keys, one genuine, one false. Within days, both trigger Allied responses. The coincidence is impossible to ignore. Jonitz fumes in disbelief, certain that somewhere a traitor feeds secrets to London. Counterintelligence teams scour the ranks, searching for spies, leaks, or captured codebooks. None are found. When Allied aircraft begin striking U-boats before their orders are even transmitted over the airwaves, fear deepens into superstition. Some officers mutter of British radio witchcraft, others of invisible censors or divine fate. But the High Command clings to its faith in technology. Senior staff dismiss any suggestion of cryptographic compromise as scientifically impossible. After all, how could mere logic defeat the perfection of German engineering? In that certainty lies the fatal flaw. The enemy's greatest weapon is not brute force but belief. Belief that numbers alone can guard against human intellect. By the time the truth becomes clear, Enigma's illusion of invulnerability has already doomed the Reich's silent fleet. By 1943, the war of minds had outgrown paper and pencil. Inside the wooden huts of Bletchley Park, the air thrummed with the sound of motors and relays, an orchestra of logic and electricity. Alan Turing's bomb machines, built from the Polish design but vastly refined, now lined entire rooms, their drums spinning ceaselessly through thousands of Enigma rotor combinations each minute. Every click, every whir, brought the Allies closer to the hidden truth behind German messages. Yet even these marvels were not enough. The enemy's codes were evolving, and so too must the machines that pursued them. In a separate building, a quiet engineer named Tommy Flowers from the Post Office Research Station was assembling something entirely new. The target was no longer Enigma, but the Lorenz cipher, used by the German High Command for top-level communications between Berlin and field marshals. Lorenz messages, longer and far more complex, used 12 wheels of shifting patterns. Manual decryption was hopeless. Flowers' answer was Colossus, a machine unlike any before it, the world's first programmable electronic computer. Using 2,400 vacuum tubes, Colossus read punched paper tape at 5,000 characters per second, comparing patterns, counting probabilities, and testing logical hypotheses that once took teams of analysts weeks to complete. With Colossus, what had been months of intellectual labor was reduced to hours. The arrival of this electronic brain marked the union of mathematics and machinery, a new kind of warfare fought in voltage and logic gates. By late 1943, over 10,000 men and women worked at Bletchley Park, producing thousands of decrypted messages each day. Ultra-intelligence now reached across every theater: U-boat hunts in the Atlantic, desert campaigns in North Africa, and the skies over Europe. Each hum of a relay meant one convoy saved, one ambush prevented, one life spared. The Germans, certain that mechanical precision was their greatest strength, never imagined their machines would be defeated by something more powerful, the ability to think faster than metal. By late 1942, ultra-intelligence had become the unseen general of Allied strategy. In the deserts of North Africa, the battle between Erwin Rommel and Bernard Montgomery was fought not only with tanks and artillery, but with knowledge. Bletchley's decrypts of German Enigma traffic revealed more than troop movements. They exposed the lifeblood of the Africa Corps. Intercepted fuel requests showed empty reserves, stranded supply convoys, and an overstretched logistics network. When Montgomery struck at El Alamein in October 1942, his timing was surgical. British armor attacked precisely as Rommel's fuel stocks reached their lowest point. The victory that followed marked the first major turning of the tide, and it owed as much to mathematics as to manpower. From there, Ultra's reach expanded. In Sicily and Italy, decrypts guided Allied fleets through waters thick with mines and lurking U-boats. Messages from German command revealed convoy routes to Tunisia and later evacuation plans across the Strait of Messina. Each revelation allowed Allied bombers to strike ports hours before ships arrived, trapping men and materiel in burning harbors. Intelligence officers joked grimly that the Germans had become their own best informants. As 1944 approached, the focus shifted north, to France. At Bletchley, new streams of ultra-data fed into Operation Fortitude, a deception plan designed to mislead Hitler about the site of the coming invasion. Fake radio chatter and double-agent reports, coordinated with precise knowledge of German interception habits, reinforced the illusion that the landings would come at Pas-de-Calais. Decrypts confirmed the ruse was working. Wehrmacht divisions massed in the wrong sector, awaiting an assault that would never come. When dawn broke over Normandy on June 6, 1944, German reserves sat idle hundreds of miles away, their orders paralyzed by misinformation born of their own encrypted traffic. For years afterward, German officers would wonder how the Allies had seemed to read their thoughts. They never realized the truth, that every confident transmission had been a confession, and Ultra had turned their security into self-sabotage. By 1944, the battle for information had become a battle for belief. Ultra-intelligence flowed steadily into Allied headquarters, shaping campaigns from the Atlantic to the Ardennes, yet it remained the most closely guarded secret of the war. Commanders were instructed to use the decrypts with surgical restraint, to act as though their foresight came from reconnaissance, luck, or intuition. Still at the front, word began to spread among British and American troops that their side possessed something uncanny. Convoys evaded ambushes, air raids struck at the perfect hour, and German counterattacks arrived only to find empty fields. Soldiers joked that somebody up there reads Jerry's mail. What began as rumor hardened into quiet confidence, the sense that the Allies were always one step ahead. Across the lines, the effect was devastating. German formations found their orders intercepted, their traps foiled, their movements anticipated. Messages sent under strict Enigma protocols seemed to betray them instantly. Some officers blamed loose discipline or invisible spies. Others, more desperate, began speaking of Allied radio magic or telepathic reconnaissance. Luftwaffe pilots swore British fighters appeared out of thin air, guided by some supernatural radar. The paranoia seeped from the ranks to the command rooms. Senior officers issued contradictory orders, distrusting even their own transmissions. By autumn, confidence in the German war machine, once anchored in the flawless logic of Enigma, had begun to crumble. The cipher that symbolized German mastery had become a psychological trap, feeding its users with false assurance even as it handed their secrets to the enemy. Each rhythmic click of its keys, once the sound of precision and control, had become the echo of betrayal. The Allies had not only outthought the Reich's machines, they had dismantled its faith in them, one decoded signal at a time. By 1944, Bletchley Park had evolved from a quiet country estate into one of the most sophisticated industrial operations of the war. Its strength lay not only in intellect but in scale. Over 200 bomb machines, each the size of a wardrobe and filled with hundreds of rotating drums, clattered day and night in specially built outstations across Britain. Constructed by the British Tabulating Machine Company under layers of secrecy, these mechanical giants consumed vast resources, miles of wiring, tons of copper, and endless maintenance hours. Yet the heart of the operation was human. Thousands of civilian workers, most of them young women, manned the machines, transcribed intercepts, and checked endless cipher tables by hand. They worked in shifts around the clock, their labor as repetitive as it was vital, transforming streams of intercepted signals into fragments of intelligence that could alter the course of battles. Every part of Britain's intelligence web was synchronized with machine-like precision. Listening posts along the coast at Scarborough and Cheadle picked up German transmissions and relayed them to Bletchley. From there, naval sections distributed decrypts to Admiralty centers in Gibraltar, Alexandria, and Washington. Each link in the chain operated under the strictest compartmentalization. No one knew more than was necessary. Even within Bletchley, those decoding messages seldom knew what the words they handled truly meant. Prime Minister Winston Churchill, fully aware of the operation's magnitude, once described its workers as the geese that laid the golden eggs and never cackled. Their silence was as valuable as their genius. The Germans, blind to this hidden infrastructure, dismissed Allied foresight as coincidence or espionage, never realizing they were being undone by an entire army of minds concealed behind English hedgerows. That invisibility, The union of secrecy, scale, and intellect ensured Ultra's supremacy until the final day of war, while the enemy still trusted the illusion of Enigma's protection. By the opening months of 1945, the walls of German secrecy had entirely collapsed. From the bunker in Berlin to the last U-boat on the Atlantic, nearly every German transmission was being read at Bletchley Park within hours of its dispatch. Ultra-intelligence flowed with a precision the enemy could never have imagined. U-boat deployments, Luftwaffe repositionings, even Hitler's personal directives to the front reached Allied commanders faster than they reached their intended recipients. Operations that once required months of reconnaissance could now be planned in a single afternoon. The Reich fought in darkness, while its opponents fought with perfect sight. As Allied forces advanced into Germany, code-breaking teams followed close behind, sweeping through captured headquarters and naval bases. In empty offices from Hamburg to Kiel, Enigma machines sat abandoned on desks, still plugged in, their rotors frozen mid-message. Hundreds were seized intact, alongside stacks of cipher logs and rotor wiring diagrams. Only now did the enormity of the secret become visible, even to those who had wielded the machine with such faith. At Flensburg in May 1945, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, Hitler's appointed successor, was informed by British officers that his naval signals had been read for years. Witnesses recalled him standing in stunned silence, unable to grasp how the unbreakable had been broken. Across the remnants of the German command, disbelief gave way to humiliation. Enigma had been more than a tool of war. It had been a symbol of German precision, of order made mechanical. Its defeat was not merely a technical failure, but a philosophical one. The triumph of imagination over certainty, of human insight over blind faith in machines. When Berlin fell and the transmitters went quiet, so too did the illusion that mathematics alone could guarantee victory. When the guns fell silent in 1945, the war's greatest secret did not. Ultra, the name whispered only in the highest circles, was sealed under the Official Secrets Act, locked away in silence as deep as the codes it had broken. The men and women of Bletchley Park returned to ordinary lives without ceremony or medals, forbidden even to tell their families what they had done. For decades, they carried their triumph in silence, answering questions about their wartime service with vague smiles or evasive phrases. Many died, never knowing that history would one day speak their names. The scope of their achievement remained invisible even as the world rebuilt. Historians would later estimate that Ultra shortened the war in Europe by as much as 2 years, saving perhaps 14 million lives. Yet for the generation that made it possible, there was no applause. Their contribution was so valuable that it had to remain buried. Ironically, the very machine they had conquered, the Enigma, continued to serve others. In the late 1940s and 1950s, surplus German cipher machines were sold or gifted to foreign governments, who trusted their supposed invincibility. British intelligence quietly intercepted and read their communications for years, exploiting the same flaw that had undone the Reich. Only in the 1970s did the full story begin to emerge, when secrecy finally yielded to history. By then, most of Bletchley's heroes were gone, their victory long unspoken. What endured was not just the brilliance of their minds, but the discipline of their silence. Ultra had been more than an intelligence operation. It was a triumph so absolute that it could not be celebrated. Its greatest strength in war and in peace was that no one ever knew it existed. In the end, the defeat of Enigma came not with the roar of battle, but with the quiet certainty of understanding. No bombs fell to mark its end. No parades honored its conquerors. Its fall was written in silence, the silence of a message intercepted, decoded, and quietly filed away. For the Germans, it was a betrayal of logic, a collapse of faith in the certainty of numbers. For the Allies, it was the triumph of intellect over arrogance, of imagination over machinery. The greatest victories of that hidden war were won not with rifles or tanks, but with pencils, wires, and restless minds that refused to believe in the word impossible. Today, the Enigma machines stand behind glass in museums, their rotors motionless, their polished keys reflecting the faint light of history. Visitors press close, seeing only metal and switches, unaware that once these mechanisms decided the fate of nations. The hum of the bombs is gone, the tapping of cipher clerks long faded, but the legacy endures. in every field where reason must outwit complexity, where knowledge turns chaos into order. In that enduring stillness, one can almost hear it still. The faint, ghostly rhythm of messages captured and understood remind us that even in war, the sharpest weapon is not power, but thought.